Welcome Twirlers Worldwide to another video in my series Photoshop for Twirlers. All you need to know in Photoshop to get you twirling like a pro. Today we're going to look at actions. We're going to make one, save one, load one and run one. Now how cool is that? Okay then, let's make a start. So let's start off with really what are actions? Well, they're actually just labour saving devices. If you do things over and over again that take a lot of steps. So basically what you do is you have Photoshop record you doing it. And then you create an action and one click runs it all for you. So let's say I want to run a filter a couple of times on a couple of images. Here I've got two layers in my layer stack. And let's say I want to run, let's imagine the twirl filter for instance on each of the images. Well, it can be a lot of mousing around. You've got to go up and click on the filter and then find twirl and then do it again, click. Well, okay, well let's do it once and create an action. Now something about actions, they're in the actions panel and here it is, and you can see I use actions quite a lot. I've got lots of them. But they actually live in the window menu. So if you click on window and the actions panel's not there, if you go and click on actions, it'll bring it up for you. Now a peculiarity about actions is that if you want to export the actions, if you want to take them out of Photoshop and give them to somebody else, then they have to be in an action set. Even if there's just one action, you can't export just one action on its own. It's got to be in what they call an action set, which is like a little folder. So let's create one of them. So I'm going to go down to the bottom here and I'm going to click. I'm going to create a new set and I'll call this Ken's Actions and click OK. And you'll see now I've got like this little, let's call it this little folder, and if I click this little triangle, nothing happens because there's nothing in it yet. Now I can put an action in it. So I'm going to click on my action, which is the next one along, which is this create new action. I'll go click on that and we'll call this one, let's call it twirl. It's automatically found that I want to put it in Ken Actions. We can try it on a function key. Let's try F3 and the shift key. And you can give it a colour. So if you use what's called button mode, this show up nice and bright. I'll give it a red colour. And I'll click record. And now what's happening is Photoshop is recording every major thing I do. I can move the mouse and that's no problem, but I don't want to be clicking unless I'm sure what I'm clicking on. So let's start the ball rolling. We'll go to his layers panel, make sure his background copy, the top layer here, is active by clicking on it. And then we'll go to filter and distort and twirl. And we can type in, let's say as it's in here, -80 to give us a negative swirl. And then click OK. And then we'll click on the background layer now. And I'll run another filter. And this time I'll just do twirl again, distort and twirl. But this time we'll make it a +80, just to even things up. And we'll click OK. Now at the moment we can't see this one that's underneath, so if I turn that one on top off, you'll see that I've got one bending one way, and if I switch that back on again, I've got another bending the other way. So I've basically got two images here that I've basically run the twirl filter on. And if I click on the top layer, and then let's just say we like the lighten blend mode. We'll click on lighten and it'll show a little bit of each one showing through. So if that's where I want to get to, then I can now go back to my actions panel and I can stop recording, which is this little square one here. So now if we look in the actions panel, in Ken Actions, I've now got an action that I've just created. I'll just close it, and it's called Twirl. And if I click that little triangle and scroll down a bit, these are all the things that I've just done that it's recorded me doing. I've twirled, I've selected a background, I've twirled again, I've hid the background, I've done all that kind of good stuff. You never really need, unless you really want to, you never really need to understand this. So what I'm going to do, I'll just click to close that up again, because all I ever need to do now is just to click on that once and then click the run action, which is this little triangle here, or I can press Shift and F3. Okay, let's see that in action. Let's see if we can get these images back to the start. So I've now got these images reverted back to where they were, which is these two images here in these layers. And I want to run the same filters on these two images. So rather than go through all that malarkey that we just did, what I can do now is look in my actions panel. And here I've got Ken Actions, I've got Twirl. I'm just going to click on Twirl and then click to run the action. And there we go, done. One click, all done. Okay, so that's creating and running an action. Let's imagine I want to give you this action now that I've spent lots of hours creating. Okay, well I need to get that out of Photoshop now. So I'm going to click on Ken's Actions, which is the actions set. And then I'm going to go up to this corner and I'm going to click on there. And I'm going to click Save Actions. And it's going to ask me where. Well, I'll save it onto the desktop. I'll leave it called Ken Actions, and it's going to give it a .atn at the end. So I'm going to click Save. Now if I just minimise Photoshop for a bit, you can see that that's the file I've just saved out. It's called Ken's Actions, and that's the ATN file. That's what you need. That's the file that you need to send off if you want to share that with somebody else. Okay, so let's install an action. So now we'll go back to Photoshop and I'll delete my Ken's Actions. So I'm going to drag that over the bin and it's gone. So now I've not got that action. So what I'll do now, I'll go and I'll minimize Photoshop again. And I'll go to Ken's Actions and I'll double click on it. And it'll open Photoshop, and if you look down at the bottom here, it's already installed itself, all ready for you to use, for you to go. Now there is something called button mode in these actions, which is really good. So if you give them a colour while you're actually creating them, then you can actually use button mode, and it puts them all in a button with a colour on. And we do that again from this flyout menu. I'm going to click, and the top thing is called button mode. And if I click on that, you'll see now that quite a lot of them are on buttons. So these are now one-click actions. I just click on one and it'll run the action. Well, that's what you need to know about actions. Thanks for watching. For more training on Photoshop and Lightroom, please subscribe to my YouTube channel, Livelink Training, or visit my website, kenfisherphotography.com. I'll see you in the next video. Bye for now.